I'm going to argue with you. There's 3 because I just got done grinding one.
I'll take that lid off. I'll bet you $100,000.
You don't got 100,000.
I ain't got 100,000, but I'm sure.
No, there's 2.
As a new parent, every ounce of sleep I can possibly get counts, and that's why we partnered with Helix Sleep as a sponsor on today's video. Helix Sleep makes premium mattresses and bedding that are customized to fit your needs and conveniently shipped right to your door. Everybody's different, and Helix knows that, so they made a sleep quiz that matches your unique body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress for you. The quiz takes your sleep preferences and your firmness preferences into account, as well as a partner's preferences for compromise. I personally am a side sleeper who likes a medium firmness mattress, and I share a mattress with my wife as well as 2 pretty big dogs. Based on my results, Helix matched me with their Midnight Luxe mattress. The Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections, the Helix Plus, a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattress designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep and medical experts. Our house is a little bit older and the AC sometimes struggles to keep up with the hot Colorado summer, so we also customize our mattress with the Glaciotex cooling cover to keep us cool and comfortable while we sleep. We've had our Helix for a few weeks now and we love everything about it so far. Once we finally get the baby down, we've been able to fall asleep faster and sleep better so we can take advantage of every quiet second we have. The best part about all of this is that Helix delivers your mattress right to your door with free shipping in the US. The mattress comes rolled up in a box and it's super easy to set up all by yourself. If it makes you nervous to buy something that you haven't tried, Helix has a 100-night sleep trial so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. Plus, Helix mattresses have a 10-year warranty and they even offer financing options and flexible payment plans so a great night's sleep is never far away. I love my Helix mattress and I think you would too. If you're looking for a new bed, check out Helix Sleep. Their 4th of July sale is running now, and it's a perfect time to upgrade your sleep with 30% off an Elite or Luxe mattress, plus 2 free pillows, or take 25% off site-wide. Click the link below or go to helixsleep.com/JimsAuto to find out more about this limited time offer. Thank you to Helix for sponsoring this video. These are Minneapolis Moline Z Tractor?
Yes.
Block/head/ what do you call this?
Cylinder assembly.
Right, you've got the cylinders in this piece.
That unbolt off of the crankcase. So just like at Montgomery Ward's generator, the cylinder assemblies unbolt off the crankcase. So the crankcase houses the crankshaft and the camshaft, but you unbolt the cylinder assemblies here that also include the valves.
Yeah, so this is a unique engine because the valves are 90 degrees to the cylinder.
Yeah.
How many other engines do you see like that?
Not often. That's not common. So that would sit on the block in that position right there.
And I think these are, I was looking, late 40s, early 50s era?
Yeah, late 40s to real early 60s.
We don't know the exact details on the tractor that these are off of. And this is two separate
engines. Yeah.
It's a 4-cylinder engine, right? So
yes.
You've got those 2 are a pair and these 2 are a pair.
These 2 are definitely a pair. They look alike, came off the same engine. I think these 2 are probably off 2 different engines, but the customer wants us to do them up as a pair to go back on an engine. So we've actually got parts here for 2 engines we're doing.
Okay. They kind of present a little bit of difficulty compared to some of our normal stuff with the fact that the cylinder is a blind hole.
Yeah.
So typically we're able to run our tool all the way through the bottom of the cylinder. In these, we have to bore straight down to, I'll call it the combustion chamber here, and you can see it ends there where my fingers are right now. And so we have to use a little bit different tooling on the boring machine. Kind of presents issues on the cylinder hone because we can't overstroke past the bottom of the cylinder like we typically do. So we may end up battling some taper over there.
Yeah.
Hopefully not, but we'll see.
We may just end up battling with these before we're done.
They just may be a battle.
But that's the way it is sometimes.
Anyway, we've got brand new pistons for one engine.
This pair here that are both still standard bore size, he has a nice set of original cast iron pistons that are 20 thousandths oversize. So we're going to bore those cylinders for these original style pistons. And then this pair, this one is still standard, but this one has already been made 20 sometime prior. So he found a set of brand new 40 over pistons that we're going to put in that pair.
Okay.
And these are the replacement aluminum pistons. They are quite a little different as far as the way the skirt is designed here on the bottom. Uses 2 compression rings and an oil ring as opposed to 3 compression rings and an oil ring on the original style, but functionally they'll serve the same purpose.
Well, these have been sitting on the bench for 3 years,
Yeah,
4 years.
Yeah, they've been here a long time waiting on various things. The customer finally came up with enough parts here. I did the crankshafts for him probably 3 or 4 months back. Let's get the cylinders done. Okay, so I'm trying to get this cylinder set up on the machine here, and it is such an odd shape, different from what we normally do, that I'm going to attempt to use the rollover fixture here that's generally for surfacing heads, and see if I can't get this cylinder assembly leveled up side to side and front to back so I can bore down through the cylinder. So I'm referencing off of the bottom surface of the cylinder assembly. That's actually on there upside down right now. If things are like they are intended to be, this surface will be parallel to the surface on the top of the crankcase, which in turn will be parallel to the center line of the crankshaft. I'm kind of checking it against my machine here, making sure my machine is level, and in turn making some minor adjustments on here to have this square to my machine. Okay, let's see if that'll fit now. Trying to make a stand to go under that head, make it a little more stable. This bolt that screws in here was just a little bit too long to fit under there. I hate to modify tooling, but in this case it was necessary. So now I've got to have a bolt in here to hold that down. I wish I would have put one in there before I started. Time to do some sketchy stuff. I need this bolt in the T-slot down there, and I can't get it in because of the stands being in the way there. So I'm going to lift up on this just enough to take the weight off, about like that. And I think I can slide this out. Now I can slip my bolt in down here and then slide this back over. There we are, just like it was. That wasn't so bad. Very close here with that jack under the backside there. I think I have this pretty well level. So now I need to take off the surfacing head. I'll put one of the boring heads on and see if we can make a cut down through the cylinder here. Let's see if I can actually find the center of that cylinder with this. Getting closer. Okay, there I have pretty close to center at that point. But I'm curious now, if I run this down the side of the cylinder wall, let's see if it stays reading true. I know what I'm like front to back. Actually pretty close, because I might be just seeing wear at that point. Let's go up and down this side and we'll see how it is left to right. It moved more than I want it to, but I don't know if it's wear or if it's my setup. So I have to determine now if what we're seeing is the wear in the cylinder or if it's because I'm not quite square. So let's zero at that point. Okay, we're pretty good right there, showing some wear where that bump is. Now let's come back up to the top. Top the way I'm looking at, but it's the bottom of the cylinder. That area we should not have a lot of wear, but when I zero there, I'm quite a ways off. So now let's figure out what direction we're off in. $29, $35. Okay, I need to bring that cylinder back this way just a little bit. So I think we can do that with this jack under here. You raise it up just a little bit. What'd that do for us? I think I helped it a little bit. Let's go a little bit more. Okay, I'm very close. I'm going to check at the bottom again. See, it's running much truer now as I go towards the bottom. And it's kind of hard to center up because I'm fighting a worn out cylinder. But I've run it up and down enough times, I'm confident that I have the cylinder parallel to the spindle of the machine. And I've set up my cutter now that's going to go down in there and hopefully reach to the bottom. I want to compare that to one of the others. This is the bit we normally use for boring a cylinder, but this one, since I'm going down into a blind hole, I have to have the one that comes down and cuts all the way to the bottom before the head of the machine hits here. So I have this adjusted. I'm going to make my first cut to just about the same size it is right now. Just kind of make a pass down through, get everything set up where I think it needs to be. So you can see that one hangs down to where it's cutting at is about even with the bottom of the boring head here. And that'll allow us to go all the way to the bottom, where this one we would hit here on the boring head before we got all the way to the bottom. So if you want to go back over and see what Nicholas is back up to, I'll make a pass here and see what it looks like.
Our plan on these, with the valve guides being worn out, is to just put a valve guide inside of a valve guide. The valve guide that we're putting in, it's a 1/2 inch on the OD, 11/32 ID for the valve stem, which, where is that valve? Okay, so we have a valve guide that we can go down into these existing guides, and we have tooling that allows us to, it's a core drill, and it's piloted here so that it'll center up nice on the existing bore, and it'll drill it out to 1/2 inch diameter so that we can press our new valve guide in. The problem is, since we already have a guide removed here, we have to go back in and put a bigger guide in, but this bigger guide has a bigger hole in it. I don't have a tool that goes from 437 pilot to 1/2 inch. I'm gonna press in this valve guide into this one, and that'll get me to a range of where I can use this tool that has the correct size pilot on the ID of the guide, and will get us our 1/2 inch OD for our replacement valve guide, just like the rest of them. So I'm going to start with pressing the larger guide into the hole here. After we press that valve guide in, the problem I'm having right now is in spots, after pressing it in, it got all distorted, and we have as much as 4/1000 press fit. That's way too much for this valve guide, so I'm going to go through with a reamer and see if we can bring that closer to maybe 2/1000. You know, for the intermediate guide, we really don't need it to be any more than, honestly, just barely press fit at all, because we're not relying on the press fit to keep it in there. Okay, I don't know if that was all the way through or not. It's kind of to the end of my travel there, and it didn't go all the way through, so I'm gonna have to run that through again. Okay. Well, now we're kind of in that 2.5 press fit range, maybe 1/1000 up here where there's not any block around the guide compressing it more. And at this point, the guide that we just put inside of the guide is going to be our guide to pilot our core drill here, so that we can get our 1/2" inner diameter on the existing guide that we put in. You know what? The outer guide moved. So now I'm going to have to figure out what to do with that. The outer guide moved when I pressed in the smaller guide.
Okay. And have you got enough to...
I have enough that I could just trim it off on the other side, but what I'm saying is, by the time I drill this, is it going to move again when I put my other guide in?
Yeah. All you can do is try it. If it doesn't work, we've got one more. Press it all together before you put it in.
Okay. So I double checked that the guide was still level after doing some pounding, but I've got a pretty solid setup here, so nothing moved. Now I'm going to go in and core drill that. And again, the guide that we put inside of the guide is just acting as a drill bushing, if you will, to keep us centered up here, to get us that 1/2" bore that we're going to put our actual guide in. Tap the air and get centered up. So it's actually cutting that entire inner guide completely away at this point. It was just a sacrificial guide so that we could get centered up concentric to the outer diameter of the guide that we put in the block itself. And I want to go really careful with not a lot of pressure, especially once I get to the bottom where the section of that guide is that's unsupported by the block, because they have a tendency to break off when you break through with a core drill like this. Man, I gotta be right there. Okay. I don't know if the camera can see up in there on the bottom side, but I did manage to go all the way through without breaking that bottom piece off. So I think I have a game plan here for getting this guide inside of this guide. We only have a 0.60 wall thickness on either side, and it's unsupported on the top here and unsupported on the bottom. Now the problem we had when we were pushing in our sacrificial guide for our drill bushing is the guide that's in the block actually moved. So I put a little jack stand here. It's just, you know, a stud with bolts on it, or with nuts on either side. And I pressed that right up against the bottom of it in hopes that it's going to prevent it from moving while I'm driving this guide into place. I don't know if I mentioned, these things are frickin' booby trapped. They've got this oil line, and when the cylinders are actually on the motor, this oil line that oils the valves here has these little nails in it, and they had felt wrapped around them, and that's what oils the valve. Is it drips out of this line through these, well, not through the little nails, but around the little nails and onto the valve. But every time you go to grab this thing, you're getting your hands full of nails. And the first set we did, we kind of thought that was an old farmer thing, right, Dad? The first set we did like a couple years ago, but that's actually just how they were made.
Yeah, it's the way it was made. Because
unless the same farmer had all these Moline Z's around here, which could be.
Could be, yeah. You know how those guys are.
So
yesterday, we spent a considerable amount of time getting this first cylinder set up on the machine, figuring out just how we're going to mount it on there to bore the cylinders. But this cylinder that we were starting with yesterday that I knew was already 20 and we're making 40, after I run the boring bar down through that, there's a pretty good ring left, about maybe a little bit past midway there, that did not clean up. It's worn worse than what will clean, and it's also been all full of, sitting full of water. It's quite rusty. And I didn't realize how rusty it was because the customer had sandblasted all these before he brought them in, and they actually looked pretty nice and clean. But after I run the boring bar in here, you can certainly see all the rust in it. So I'm going to get a hold of him and see if he doesn't have another one of these that we can work with, and we'll probably scrap this one because it would have to have sleeves put inside here to make anything out of it, and I just don't think these are that rare to make it worth the cost. So let's go over here.
that would cost extra because those look like a pain in the butt to put sleeves in.
What's that?
That would cost extra because
those
those would be a pain to put sleeves in.
Yeah, those would be some real tough ones to put sleeves in. It's just, they're just not that rare that it would be worth it. I've got this cylinder assembly set up. I've zeroed in on it, top and bottom. Everything looks real good. I've got my cutter set. I'm going to get my other light here. You know you can play jump rope with these. I haven't done that for a while, but yeah, that's not going to work.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah, that appears to be cutting like it should. So let's go ahead and engage the feed. Hopefully that's a rough 20 thousandths cut, which would actually, well, it's actually, we're going about 17 over, and we'll finish the last 3 thousandths of an inch in the cylinder hone. If everything is still set properly, my machine should stop just before that cutter hits the bottom of the cylinder, because these are blind holes. Okay, probably 5 minutes we should be there. Okay, we're closing in on the bottom of this cylinder right now. We're slightly over an inch above the bottom. And if my stops and everything is still set correctly from the first cylinder that I did, everything should go fine here. But I'm still going to catch this thing just before it gets to the bottom and manually feed the last few thousandths. I hope nothing crashes here. I don't think it will, but there's always that possibility. Okay, there's 100 thousandths to the bottom, so I'm going to hand feed the rest of the way. Okay, we're going beyond my 0 on the gauge here. Okay, I can hear it has quit cutting. So I could probably stop there, but we're going to keep feeding here and see if the machine won't retract on its own. Okay, just as I could hear it touch bottom, my stopping machine tripped the machine and it's going to retract.
It would be more fun if we had that CNC I want.
Be more exciting worrying about crashing a high dollar machine instead of the old worn out one.
I don't think that thing's worn out.
No, our machine's not worn out, but I was just saying our old machine. Okay, if you can look down in there, I don't know if you'll be able to see that on camera, but where that blind, where the bottom of that hole is, where the piston, it's actually the top of the cylinder where a piston comes through, I have to stop before I hit that, and you can see the cuttings that piled up on that from boring the cylinder. And when my cutter came down through there, it just cleaned the cuttings off without actually touching bottom. I couldn't have had that set any more perfect than what it was. So I set my gauge up here. 0 is my finished bore size. And when I go inside that cylinder we just finished, leaves me a little better than 3/1000ths to hone out. So that's exactly where I wanted to be on this. I've measured, several different positions, top, bottom, around. It's round, straight, everywhere I look, I've got the right amount to hone out. So I can pull my cutter out, put my centering fingers in. We'll come down, move over to the next cylinder. When you're coming down like that, you always want to have your fingers in a position where you can get them out instead of crushing them or pinching them in there. That looks pretty good. I'll run down just a little ways here. Yeah, we're fine. Pull the centering finger out, cutter back in, and away we go.
Okay, so yesterday we got that first guide in, and that was the most complicated one. I trimmed off the top side here so it's, flush and looks just like the other guides we have here. Same thing on the bottom side, which you may or may not be able to see very well. I went in and trimmed it to match, this guide matches this guide now. So at this point, it's the same process. I just have to go in and core drill the last 3 of these, drive in our new guide, and then I might have to do some trimming on them, just like I did here, but hopefully not very much. And then we'll go in and we'll size our guides for our valve stems. Okay. This is really pretty much the same thing as we did yesterday, twice. Okay, so right there I have about the same amount to trim off on the top and the bottom. But we'll go ahead and put these next 2 in.
300,000ths. 100. I'm going to hand feed it. And this cylinder there's a little bit of an undercut at the top where we're ending up. I'm into that undercut area, but I can still hear it just touching a little bit. There it is. I was kind of hoping I'd get into that undercut area and I'd be able to just stop the machine without going all the way, but it was still touching just a little bit there, so I let the machine do its own thing and stop. Yeah, looks good. Cleaned up all the way through. So with that, we've got one more cylinder finished, and I'll take this block assembly off, put another one on, and we'll do the same thing all over.
They were extra long on the top, so I went off just like we did on that first one and trimmed them off real quick. Now I'm going to flip it over, trim them off on the combustion side because they're a little bit long on that side too, and then should be able to hone them to size and move on to our valve seats. There we go. Good.
I'm set up on my next set of cylinders here and have started the cutter down through. Everything seems to be fine. I almost created a problem here. I was moving around my vacuum hose I have back here that kind of pulls away some of the dust, and I accidentally bumped the limit switch here and shut the machine down right in the middle of the cylinder, but no harm done. Start it back up, other than my heart skipped a beat when I did that. I wasn't sure what had happened, but we're back going here again. Is since they are blind holes, I don't feel real comfortable walking away or totally walking away from the machine while it's boring. A lot of times when you're boring cylinders, you can just walk away and do something different for a little bit, but I don't think that'd be a wise thing to do on this one. You can definitely see when I get down into the area of the cylinder with that centering finger where it's worn. Watch as I come back up. There I just came out of where the end of the kind of the ring travel is, and once you're out of the ring travel area, it runs real true, and away we go. What is that, number 6? So once we get to the bottom of this, we'll be 3/4 of the way done with the rough bore. Okay, that sounds like I'm cutting pretty heavy all the way around again. So I'm going to stop right there. Just a really light shadow down there in the bottom that didn't quite clean. But I'm going to measure that. See, we've still got 0.03 to go here. And if I go down into that area, yeah, it truly is a shadow. That's not more than, I go a little bit above that, and I've got, well, 2.5 thousandths. And if I go right down into where that shadow is, virtually reads the same. I think by the time we run the hone down through this cylinder and finish out that last 3 thousandths, that will be completely gone. So there we are, 3/4 of the way through our set of 4 cylinders here. So I can take this one back off and we'll mount the next.
So I need to set our valve stem clearance here, and we were talking probably 2.5 thousandths to 3 thousandths is an okay spot to be on this old antique tractor. So I was just kind of measuring the valve stem here, and I'll lock that down, and we'll transfer that measurement to our bore gauge. And if I rock to find the high spot, We're pretty much right there, maybe a tenth off. And right out of the box, or right at install, that one's 1.5 to 2.5, depending where you check. 2.5 to 3-ish, depending where you check. 1.5 to just shy of 3. And this one I already honed, I just touched it a little bit, and we're right around that 3 mark. So I found a pilot that we'll be using in our Surdy that fits really, really nicely in that guide. And I'll kind of use a combination of using the pilot by feel to see how it fits, as well as double checking with our gauge here, because we're going to be right around that 3 thousandths clearance mark. So we'll take our diamond valve guide hone, put a little honing oil in. Okay, that's pretty dang close. Let me rinse the hole out. The tighter our pilot fits, the better our machining goes on the Surdy. And that is right to where it'll pretty much go in, but it's still too tight. If I ran that right now, it would definitely seize up when we're doing our machining. So I'm going to put just a little more oil in. We'll give it just a few more strokes.
So are you about done there?
Just about.
Well, you better be, because I need to bore those cylinders and you're holding me up.
Well, I wanted to make sure you had the easy job.
How's that easy?
How that easy?
How was that easy?
This was. Okay, so just like that, that guide is properly sized, fits the pilot really well, but we're right in that above 2.5, but kind of right around 3 thousandths clearance range to our valve, which should fit really, really nice. Feels pretty good for a tractor.
For anything. Yeah, that has a nice feel to it.
Okay, so I'll hurry up and get these other 2 honed, and you can have it.
Okay, I'll take a little break. So after I got this cylinder assembly off of the boring machine there, I started looking at it a little closer, and we'd mentioned that there was a shadow down inside this cylinder here. But you know what? I got looking at that a little closer. Actually, there's a shadow in this cylinder too. And I don't know how I missed seeing that when it was on the machine over there, other than it's just kind of hard to get down in there. So we've got roughly 3 thousandths to finish size here. But if I go down in where this shadow was left, find that spot there, I'm at about better than 1, probably not quite 1.5. When we get done, we may still see a bit of a shadow, but it's not enough that I'm going to worry about it. Antique tractor, this is never ever going to be run hard again, and it's so much better than what it was when we first started. I think we'll be fine.
You're into diminishing returns.
Yeah, diminishing returns is what it amounts to. I don't know if you can see that on this side. The bottom, which is actually the top of the cylinder, everything we're working on here is upside down, so it may be a bit confusing to the viewers out there when we're talking about bottom and top, and we kind of flip-flop back and forth whether we're referring to it in the engine in operation or whether we're referring to it in reference to the direction we have it on the machine here.
Why don't you see if you can get a hold of Wyatt or Jack, who told us they have 4 or 5 of these things? Turn your flashlight off.
I want to be able to see you.
See if you can get
Boomer with the new telephone.
Yeah. See if you can get a hold of them, and maybe we can see one in person and get some footage of it to get an idea of how it's oriented for everybody. Okay, so all of them should be finished here. Feels really good. I can't even feel clearance with the pilot, which is what you want for when you're doing your valve seat machining. That one feels good. That one feels good. And that one feels good. So I'd say our valve guides are ready to go on this head.
So I finished boring my last cylinder here. You know, when we started out on this, our customer had brought us one set of 4 pistons, used ones that are 20 over, and he brought us a set of 4 pistons that are 40 over. And the first cylinder we bored that we thought we was going to have to go to 40, it didn't work out at all. Too rusty. So I've since contacted the customer, and he's going to bring us another cylinder, see if we can make that work. This one here did not clean up down in what is the top of the cylinder, the bottom as you're looking at it from this direction. Left a big shadow down one side that would probably take, I stuck the bore gauge in there and measured it, would probably have to have another 5 thousandths out of there anyway to even think about cleaning up. So we'll go ahead and use this for one of our 40 over cylinders. So I need to go back, reset my cutter now, another 20 thousandths larger to the 40 thousandths over size, and we'll just bore this and be done with it. So everybody is always asking for a bloopers reel, and I think we just made a major blooper here. You know, I'm getting up there in age and the old bones hurt, and standing here today keeping track of this machine, running that down through the cylinder, was making my back hurt. So I'm down to my last one here. I thought, you know what, I'm going to go get my trusty stool, and I'm going to sit on a stool while that's coming through. So I grabbed the stool and I come walking through here to set my stool down, and I don't know how I did that, but I hit that the X-axis handle with the stool as I came by, and it shifted the machine and jammed the cutter into the side of the cylinder as it's going through. We haven't moved anything here yet. I don't know, maybe Josh, if you can see from there, or even from my angle here, you can see the gouge I put in the cylinder wall with that. So we've probably ruined that one, but I guess I'll back this thing off, see if I can get it up out of there without doing any more damage. Nicholas, which way do I need to go with this to get that backed off? You always remember that better than me.
Okay, what are you trying to back
I want
off?
to shift the block that direction.
Okay, it's right-hand rule, so the table will move that way if you rotate it that way, or it should, if I remember it right.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so I've moved the table, so I should be able to bring my cutter up out of there, and let's see what kind of damage we've got. So the cutter appears to be fine. It didn't bend it or do any damage. Let's bring the cylinder over here so we can see down in there. Part of this edge around here is where it has not bored the cylinder out yet, but over on that side there, there's a pretty deep gouge in the cylinder wall. Right there. So there, we have it.
Well, I'm glad you waited until you started on the cylinder that I already finished the valve guides in, because I like doing extra work.
Looks like we're all going to be doing some extra work. I've messed up the cylinder here. We're going to have to put a sleeve in that to repair that. I don't have a sleeve here right now, but we want to go ahead and at least get one pair of these done for the customer. But while I have this mounted on here, we also need to surface the head gasket surface and the manifold surfaces of this. So I am in the process of switching over from the boring head to the surfacing head here. Whoops. Always drop at least one of those washers when you change this over. It's just part of the deal. Roll this over and slide the fixture back to a position where I can come across here with the surfacer without having to actually take it off of the fixture. I'm feeling a little bit deflated this afternoon after messing that cylinder up, but those things happen. You just gotta roll with the punches. Anybody that tells you they've never ever made a mistake that way has either never done anything or they're lying to you, one or the other. That looks pretty darn good right there. Probably gonna double check myself a little bit more this afternoon than I normally would after my little incident this morning. Yeah, you can see the surface is kind of uneven, but I think actually our setup is pretty close to being true. Put the lock in so we don't accidentally downfeed while we're doing this. I'm going to touch off in that position right there. Zero my DRO. The metal is pulled up by all of the head bolts here. So I am touching over here. This is going to roughly be 4/1000ths. But again, it's so uneven. I'm sure some places it's going to be taking 4, some places it may not be taking anything. Let's let it fly. Let me move back across and see what it looks like. Oh, look at that. Cleaned up much better than I thought it might. I'm thinking if I take about 2 more thousandths off that, I can probably clean that up pretty fair. Let's see if that won't do it. So we'll come back in a couple minutes. And I'd say we have it right there. Okay, so one of my neighbors has some of these tractors, and I think we're going to take a little break here, and we're going to run down to their place and see if they'll show us what one of these look like when they're together. Maybe we can actually even hear one run. So let's head down there for a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's like a,
Like
it's
an
almost like a
head-
flathead, but it's
Like
kind
a
of,
flathead, only it's sideways.
yeah. We have actually
You're
4 of them right now. We're boring the cylinders and doing the valves. And Dad goofed up the machine, and now he has to put a sleeve in one. Yeah, there he is.
Oh, that's only got 2 bearings on the crankshaft.
2.
Roller bearing in the front and a regular bearing in the
I'm
back.
going to argue with you. There's 3, because
No.
I just got done grinding one.
I'll take that lid off, I'll bet you $100,000.
He don't got 100,000.
I ain't got 100,000, but I'm sure
No, there's 2.
I
Now that one's got 3.
Well, this is an earlier one.
oh, this is, oh,
This is
okay.
a 38.
Okay, so
That's
this
a 49.
is, this one over here is more like what
Yeah,
we're
but
working.
that's got
Okay,
3.
that's why. Okay,
got 3.
I didn't know you was working on
Reason
something
I know
different here.
because I had that apart.
Okay.
I was 10 years old and then I took
It's been a couple months since I ground those cranks, but I'm like, man, I know I ground more than just one, because it does have a roller on one end, and then I think the center and the, yeah.
on the front and then just a bushing on the.
But yeah, you can see on the other side the
way the head goes on there.
the head going across and water neck
See,
going
and then
out.
the mag sets up here in front.
Yeah. It's turned the wrong direction.
Well, it's the right way. Boeing knew what they was doing when they made this tractor. See, the reason I know too, because I broke the crankshaft in there one time.
Huh.
And I was probably about 15, and I turned the governor up on it, and that son of a would tear out of it.
Did
Would
you-
pull like an M International.
Did your dad know you turned it up?
No.
Did you ever tell him?
Yeah, afterward. Here's how you turn the governor up. This screw right here.
Huh.
And the oil, see how the oil deal is? You can set your oil pressure up right here.
Okay. The relief is down
See
there.
how that oil
That
filter is?
looks more like the drain plug than a.
But the-
relief
Well, I think the screw's on the other side,
on the other side.
but that's the spring and the ball in there.
Okay.
You got the gates on?
Got it in gear?
Yeah.
No, these here, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
You turn this on?
Yeah, the one. Wow.
That's why the head.
How'd that start so easy? Easy, no?
It's a 1938, but there ain't another one that'll outrun it that year.
So what model?
Get out of the road like you normally.
What model is this one? So what's this?
That's a Z8.
This is a 49 and this is a 48.
Okay. Yeah, get a picture of this. It has. He was calling it hydraulics. Just joking, but it's gear-driven lift on it. Show him that again, how that works. And see your.
What's that?
If you have an implement hooked on there, that'll like a cultivator or something, I'd lift it up out of the ground.
That ain't good.
No. Yeah, shut it off.
They call it ZAS because it's standard.
Now these here, there's another one out there. It's got the hydraulics on it. The hydraulic pump fits right here. They had a hell of a good hydraulic system. Real strong. I'll show you when we walk out there.
You gonna show them the ZB?
But you see that, Dad? It's got the water manifold that goes across and
See how
ties the
water pump
blocks or
works?
whatever you want to call them together. And then on the head
Okay.
side, the head
Okay.
See, and then
ties it together.
This one is distributor instead of mag. See how-
Okay. Being it's a little bit newer.
And then this one don't have the high compression head on it.
This one don't. This one, we put that on that one.
Okay.
So those, each one of those cylinder blocks does need to be fairly close dimensionally for this and
Oh,
the
yeah.
head
Oh,
and the
yeah.
manifold to all fit right on
fit.
both of them.
And they had my uncle bought a new
Leaking
one
gas.
in 1944. That was during the war. And they come out with a cast steering wheel because the government needed all that rubber. So they made cast steering wheels, and
Yeah.
that one out there's got
Yeah, that
cast
one out there
steering
has.
Well, that was some of the comments on that generator, that's the reason, even like the cover on the points is a cast iron cover, because they said all the lighter materials were being used
For the war.
for the war
these
efforts.
two tractors here was both dads, so bought them new.
Dad, did you see that generator?
No.
Yeah, it's right by the door.
Exactly the same, even down to the date code on it.
Really?
It's got the same
Huh.
Power Light Montgomery Ward tag.
Oh, so it's awards too, huh?
Yeah. So they must have been green originally,
I'd say they probably was.
because ours has that.
That green
we
underneath.
could see that green under the blue paint.
It's on there how it's shown. Nicholas, there's his cover for his coils.
Well, and I saw somebody commented there that, get tripped over that crank, that the reason our cover is gone is because the coils have been replaced with automotive coils instead of the originals.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, it's got that heavy.
Yeah, the braided, shielded spark plug wires. Yeah, all that's been taken off of ours. And then we're missing this cover here.
I thought maybe you had yours running by now.
No, we haven't messed with it. We've been waiting on some parts to come. We got the carburetor kit,
Oh, yeah, you said you
and
had
we're
your-
waiting on the diaphragm for the fuel pump to come. Okay, well, show us that other one. Whatever you was talking about.
what are
ZB?
Yeah.
Oh, the ZB, oh, that's a good one. That's the last one they made. See?
Josh, get a picture of this one. Those heads I did a while back for a G1000, that would be similar to this tractor.
It is.
Well, the G1000 you worked on is in the big shed. It's
Is
in the shop.
there one of them around here?
There's a G1000 there. That's when
Gas
they
Oh,
put
yeah.
You ain't gonna find them trees, that's a gas one.
Yeah, that's the cockshut
They
you
only
did
made
the head on.
77 of those.
77 of those ones? Huh.
Huh.
Blocks, the heads, everything. And they had new bearings for everything, except for one cap. And we're missing one half a cap. That was it.
Huh.
They found everything else. The last one, so they made the steering wheel sit up, and they got rid of the hand clutch, and you got a foot clutch now instead of the hand clutch.
I don't know whether it's just or not, I think you ran out of gas last time. I had it. These come out in 53.
Yeah. All right. So I just made my last pass surfacing the head gasket area of these heads. So let's roll this back. I hope this is the last pass. We should be done. Yeah, that looks nice. I took 6/1000ths off of each cylinder. Now I need to take this off here and roll it up the other direction, and we'll surface the manifold side, which is on top, which is really weird for an engine to have all of the exhaust and intake directly on the top of the engine, but it is what it is. Well, everybody, it's my favorite time of day in the shop right now. It's after hours. Nicholas has gone home, so I don't have him bossing me around anymore. The cameraman's gone home. I don't have him sticking a camera in my face. Bookkeeper's gone home. I don't have to listen to her complain that we've spent too much money. It's just me, and my wife's getting ready to make supper. So it's kind of a quiet time for me here in the shop to finish up some things, and that's just what I'm doing. I have all of the head gasket surfaces done on the heads. I have the, let's see, what surfaces have I done? Oh, I still have to do the exhaust manifold side, or intake and exhaust manifold side here. There's a couple of these that are pretty rusty and pitted. I think we can make a cut on these and clean that up quite a bit. The way these mount on the engine as pairs, I think it's probably best if we keep the heads all dimensionally the same with each other. So I did start with one of the other heads over here, got it set up on the machine here between parallels and surfaced it, and it took about 8/1000ths off of it to get it clean. So I'm going to take exactly the same amount off all of the other heads too. So I have my DROA zeroed in here to where when I have this mounted on there, when this number comes to 0, they will be all dimensionally the same from this surface down to the mating surface here where the block, where the cylinder block assembly sits on the crankcase. So let me put this camera down for just a little bit and we'll mount the next head and get started. I do start by going across the surface here with a flat file, making sure there's no burrs or anything that would keep the head from mounting up as it should. And it's pretty simple on these. Just set up the parallels here, put the block on there. I have one bolt through back here to bolt it down on that side, and just a clamp on this side holds it plane secure. And with that, we're ready to turn the machine on, start surfacing. Okay, I've got the machine running, and it takes just a couple minutes to make its pass across the head there. I'll make a couple of cuts here with a finish cut and bring it down so the dimension from this surface here to where the head assembly, cylinder assembly bolts onto the block will be dimensionally the same on all of the heads we're doing. So I left the machine running with this last head while I went to supper. Let's back this thing off, see what it looks like. Hey, look at that. I think we're done. We've got all the surfacing done.
So as you can see, this particular head/block assembly from the factory did not have any valve seat inserts. They're worn out,
and they're super pitted from rust. So we've got a counterbore cutter set up here, and we're gonna go in and cut a counterbore so that we can drive in a replacement valve seat insert. I don't know what's going on, but this will not cut. Was there a valve seat in there? I thought this was the one that doesn't have seats.
I didn't think it did at first either, but it does.
Okay. Apparently it does have seats. Okay, so looks like there was a valve seat insert there, which has now come out, and I can see the line of where we're cutting compared to the counterbore where it was. Right here's the bottom of their seat. Here's the bottom of my seat that I haven't quite fully cut yet. So it was a little bit smaller diameter, probably about the same depth that we're gonna come to here. And that had to be cast iron, right, Dad?
Yes.
The way it was rusty and the way it blended so well. So now I'm trying to figure out if there really is a seat on the other exhaust here or not, because it does not. I cannot see a line where a bottom of a seat would be. And this is the other exhaust seat on this head. That's exactly what that one looked like before. So I'm curious if we'll see any seat in there, but even looking up from the bottom, you can't see any line there where the bottom of the seat would be. We'll be a little more careful cutting this one, but we're just gonna do the same thing and see how it comes out. So the exhaust side did have seats. The intake side, which are the two in the middle, did not have seats, or at least not that I noticed while cutting them out. So now I'm gonna get this off the Surdy and we'll drive in our new valve seats. Easy peasy. Okay, so now we're gonna go in and we're gonna cut our actual seating angles on the intake and exhaust valves. The only spec I could find gave a reference of 94 thousandths wide seat angle. That's really wider than they need to be, but we're gonna go ahead and do an 80 thousandths wide angle on both the exhaust and intake seats. When we're done, we should be able to see a little bit of bottom angle, then we'll see our 45-degree seat angle that's 80 thousandths wide, and we'll just see a sliver of the top angle here, and that'll make them come out and have the valves positioned pretty much exactly like they would have been when they left the factory clear back in, anywhere around 1950. So before I go too crazy, I want to stop and see where it's seating on the valve right now. So I put a little bit of green on the valve here, and we'll just let the seat face rub that marker off the face of the valve, and that'll give us an idea of where we're coming out here on the valve face. So we're maybe biased a little bit, just a little bit far to the outside, so I went ahead and backed off a quarter turn on the adjustment nut, or adjustment screw rather. I'll just put some color on there so we can see. Got my sliver of top angle there. Vacuum's good. That's pretty good with 3 thou clearance. We're just slightly biased to the outside of the valve, which is a pretty good spot to be in. That's our full 80,000 seat width, and it looks pretty on the top side. Or side? What do you call this? It's not the top side, and normally the top side is actually the bottom side, but this is the side. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut these last 3 seats, which should go really quickly, and we'll be finished with the valve job on this particular block, and then I'm gonna move over to the cylinder hone, and I think my dad can finish the valves on the other ones. Okay, we'll do a quick vacuum check real quick. So there's the first exhaust. And there's no valve stem seal, so you're gonna have a small amount of leak down going past the valve stem through the valve guide. But that looks pretty solid. Let's check the other exhaust guide, valve seat rather. Pretty solid as well. Now on the intake, I only have one valve. The customer only brought us one valve, but they share a port, so I actually have to use a little pad here to cover the seat side, and then I got to put my finger over that valve guide. Kind of a two-hand ordeal. And as long as it'll pull up there, I'm happy, because I can't take my hand off to go over and flip the switch. Let's check the other side. And those all look great. Those are gonna seat really, really well. Let's get this thing over into the cylinder hone. So we have a, what do you think that is? 50 thou thick piece of plastic that we put in the bottom, kind of a shim to maybe kind of protect our stones. The problem with this is we can't overstroke past the bottom of the cylinder like we normally do. So we're gonna be fighting the bottom of the cylinder not potentially coming out with a little bit tighter, so we're going to be fighting a little bit of taper the whole time. Not to mention I don't want to crash into the bottom. So I'm right there to where I can just feel a little bit of tension on that. So I have a little calculator that I made to figure out roughly what our crosshatch will be, and based on that I'm going to set our strokes per minute to 41, okay, and our spindle speed to 125, and theoretically that's going to give us about a 35-degree crosshatch, but we'll kind of eyeball it once we start here too. It'll also be stroking a little bit slower, so maybe less chance of the machine kind of, you know, the momentum carrying through and slamming into the bottom of the cylinders.
Yeah, I kind of felt of this yesterday to see how rigid it is, what's at bottom. And it's actually pretty rigid. I don't think
it should be.
I'm just remembering what my old Peterson hone was like before I had this one.
Yeah. That oil, whatever that plastic you put in the bottom, it probably turns to super glue.
No, I think that's nylon, so I don't picture the oil hurting it.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Just for fun. Is this my 10th?
Yes.
How straight was it to start with?
You mean after I bored it or before I bored it?
No, after you bored it.
After I bored it, it was under half thousandths.
Okay. Well, it's hard to get clear to the bottom there, but we maybe have 3/10 right at the bottom, tight, which is actually the top. And how far do the rings get to?
You know, I don't know for sure.
Now that we have this diamond head, this, what do you call this? The gauge or
Yeah.
scale is a lot more accurate, but it's actually about double. So if I mark it for 6, theoretically the machine would turn off when it had taken out 3/1000ths. We need to go 3/1000ths to finish size right now, but I'm just going to set it to 4 just to be safe, and we'll start.
Well, and as far as where your rings come to, the closest they could possibly come would be 3/8 of an inch.
Okay, so show that on the camera too.
So I'm measuring from the top of the piston to where the top edge of the first ring groove would be, and that would be 3/8 of an inch. And then if we add another 1/16 of an inch for clearance between the top of that piston and the top of the cylinder, you're clear up to 7/16 of an inch.
Yeah. So what would it do if there was a half-thou taper right in the last quarter
little
inch?
bit, you might be a little bit tight around the top of the piston here, but the piston has extra clearance there anyway.
Right.
So I really don't think we have to worry about much other than in the ring travel itself. I think there's more than enough wiggle room that we'd never have any trouble at the top.
Yeah. So our load meter, you can see, is running pretty true. That's a rough indication of how straight your cylinder is. Because what happens is if you have a tight spot in the cylinder, when the hone gets to that spot, the motor requires more load to turn the hone head, and that's what this is reading, is how much load we have. It's funny, when it comes up, there's no coolant coming out the bottom, but when it goes down, it's like pushing it out almost. Just like if it was air. Okay, so I was expecting to have about 1 left. Let's go clear to the bottom here as close as I can get. So we're getting maybe a small amount of taper right at the bottom, because we're like 1 3 or 1.5 throughout the rest of it, but right at the bottom we're 2 or 1 8 or 9. Yeah, this would not be fun with vitrified stones. Blind cylinders.
Quite honestly, I would not even attempt that.
That's part of why they sat on the bench over there for 3 or 4 years.
And the other piece of it, let me show you here. There is no way we could do this with the vitrified stone head here, because it has this other knob on the bottom that sticks down, at least a half an inch below the last stone here.
Yeah. Whereas on the diamonds, the diamonds themselves go clear to the bottom.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted you to put that piece of plastic in there for protection, because the diamond is what would hit first.
Yeah. Because that's as far down as I can reach. I mean, it might kind of gradually over that last inch kind of increase.
Okay.
So.
Well, I think that last inch is not going to be an issue for piston to cylinder wall clearance. That won't cause any problem, but it might make his rings butt together if he doesn't have maybe a little extra ring end gap clearance.
Get the bulk of the cylinder the right.
Bulk of the cylinder right, because at the very, very, what will be the top of the cylinder, bottom as we're looking at it here, only the ring goes into that area. So if it tightens up just a little bit there, it's not like it's going to seize a piston, but he will have to watch his end gap.
It's gonna have half thousandths taper.
And actually tighter at the top where the most wear occurs. So you're kind of reversing this thing, giving a little extra at the top, and
Yeah.
as time goes by and it wears in, does that make it last longer?
We're giving it extra life, if you say so. Okay, so these are 180 grit diamonds, and we do a 2-stage honing process with the diamonds. So I'm taking this, these are the roughing stones. I'll take this 2 size, and then we'll put the CBN 600 grit finishing stones in, and we'll plateau the cylinders, and that'll get our peaks where we need to be. The valleys, this step right now is getting the valleys where they need to be, and should be in a good spot. We're about 1/10 past minimum for most of the cylinder. There we're kind of right at 0, too tight, and they're clear at the bottom, we're half thou tight.
Okay.
So maybe we kind of let that one cool.
Yeah, run through your other one and then come back and see what it measures like.
And I shouldn't have to change this at this point. Now I should be able to just run this till it stops. But we'll kind of go slow and that's reading right about 6, and we said we had 3 to take out. So
and that's what that last block I did, that's why I determined on that too, is that read 2. Yeah, that reads times 2 whatever you're taking out of the cylinder.
And it's actually, if anything, it's a conservative number. So it probably, when it stops, it probably will not quite be the same as that cylinder was. But look how straight this is running.
Well, it was till you pointed that out.
Yeah. Well, it spit the plastic out the bottom. We're just about exactly where we need to be. So I think they're staying nice and cool, but I'm going to let them cool for a couple minutes, come back, check where we're at, and then we'll plateau.
I would leave well enough alone.
Okay, you think that's good enough?
I think it's plenty good enough.
Okay, so tell them what you saw.
Okay, well, when I measure this, if I go clear to what is the top of the cylinder, it's about half thousandths tight. And as soon as I move down, looking like maybe a little over an inch, what does that look like? Maybe somewhere between an inch and certainly not more than 2 inches. You're to your nominal size, what you're looking for. You're straight all the way to the bottom of the cylinder.
Okay. Are they round?
They are round.
Go get your UPS. And I'll start switching over to the finishing stones, I guess.
Yeah.
2, number 2. That one's 1/10 over nominal. 2/10 over nominal. So with this, rather than paying attention to any size up here, we're not really trying to take out any more than like
a tenth of material. So we're just going to pay attention to how many strokes up and down it makes while it's got pressure on it. So I'm going to try to keep the pressure consistent between both, and I think I'm going to do 12 or 13 strokes. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Can you feel a difference?
Yeah, definitely feel the difference with your fingernail. Run your fingernail up and down that.
Yeah, your fingernail just kind of skates across over here, whereas you can actually feel the difference there. So that just shows the difference between the rougher coarse grit diamonds and the finish, smoother grit that we're putting on the finish side. So let's just go ahead and do the other the same.
Yeah.
I was reading that clock wrong. I was like, oh gosh, I gotta leave.
Yeah, I know you have trouble with that because
2, 3, 4, 11. That slight sound that I was talking about being able to hear, I can't hear it when you're yapping your mouth.
Well, I was just going to comment about, I know it's hard for you to tell time because my clocks have hands on them, and you're from the digital age.
I'm not that young. And the difference is, I can use both. I can read that, and I know how to use a smartphone. And we know what the situation is there for you. Looks pretty. That one should be done.
Okay.
But
Well,
let's put the profilometer
yeah,
in it.
I was going to say, let's rinse it off there with a little bit of brake parts cleaner, dry it off, and we'll measure it and see. We'll see if you're as smart as you think you are.
I am. So this profilometer, we've shown it in our videos before, but there's a little tiny stylus on the end of this here, and it'll drag that stylus across the cylinder and read the surface finish of it, so that that stylus will dip into the valleys and it'll pop up over the peaks, and it'll give us some values of our surface finish parameters, our roughness and peaks and valleys and all that jazz.
Peaks, valleys, plateaus.
So hopefully the peaks are mid to low teens, valleys maybe in the 40 to 60 range, anywhere in there would be fine for this. And our core roughness probably anywhere from 40 to 50 would be nice, but as low as 35 would be fine. So it's drawing our little picture. The flies are driving me insane.
Almost
Dick.
got it.
Okay, peaks 7. That's even better. Our RK, like I said, is kind of lower. Took more off the peak there than I thought we did, but we're 8. So, and then our valleys are 50, 52. There's kind of a picture of it. So it's got that nice plateau on top and these deeper valleys there. That's what's going to hold the oil. Your ring is actually going to be riding across that flat surface on top. And you can imagine if that was as rough as the valleys are on top, it'd just chew up your rings right away.
Yeah.
But the way it is here, hopefully it'll break. I mean, they should seat really, really quickly, and hopefully be a long-lasting surface for compression. I can't imagine these have a whole lot of compression, other than they had that high compression head on the one tractor.
Did they?
That we looked at, yeah. So we were right at that 52 on the RVK, 7.8 on the peaks. That's awesome. I was saying mid to low teens, because I thought that's where it'd be, but maybe could have even done a few less strokes. And then 36 on the core roughness. And in theory, they should be fairly close. There's just some different
There's a little bit of inconsistency in the pressure as the coarse stones are finishing out there, that last bit, as well as the pressure, especially on the finish side, trying to run it up and
Duplicate from one to another.
yeah, and count the right amount of strokes. But still way easier with diamonds and the 8-stone head than what we had before. Kind of right, almost exactly the same. 54 on the valleys, 9 on the peaks, and just shy of 35 on the
Yeah.
core roughness.
I have no doubt that's better than that was when it was brand new. I'm not.
Surely it should be.
Well, yeah, I'm just not saying because we did it, but because the equipment and techniques we use have changed so much. Because what is this thing? Even if this was a 1960 model, it's is that 65 years old?
Yes, pushing 65.
Yeah, give or take 65 years old. A
and
lot
the
of
one
things have
thing-
changed.
And this is definitely straighter and rounder than stuff was back in the day.
Yeah.
I know that for a fact because that 8-stone head, I mean, 2/10 over nominal size, and I turn it that way, and we're kind of right in that same 2/10 ballpark. That one we're what, 3? The only questionable spot is down at the bottom, and even there, as low as I can get, we're 3 tight, 3/10 tight,
Yeah.
and 4/10 tight. I hope there's enough. That's what tolerances are
Yeah.
for.
I would really like to know what they used at the factory to finish these to be able to get all the way to the bottom. I'm just betting they came with a little bit of taper from brand new.
Yeah.
I don't know possibly what they could have had that would have done any better.
One more to do to match this one that still needs seats put in and seats cut, and then it'll need honed. And then we have the one that you foobarred
Yeah.
that might turn into another video. And he said put sleeves in that other
He
one.
told me he does not have any better cylinders than that one we already have there, so he said go ahead and put 2 sleeves in that. So I've got to get those 2 sleeves ordered. The sleeve for the one I messed up came today, but I'll have to order in 2 more for the other cylinder. I think we can probably make a video of the work.
Fixing your foobar.
Yeah,
and
fixing that.
I guess you
and-
can't really call it foobar if it's not.
Yeah, it's
foobar.
repairable. Yeah.
It's just fubr. FUBR, but repairable.
Yeah, but repairable.
So
Anyway, we'll have that to do, and yeah,
but
because
the rest of the work, aside from the sleeves, like doing the seats, all the tooling set up, so you should be able to roll through those and get them done.
Yeah.
Hopefully, who
So-
knows?
So if you're having to leave now, I can go ahead and get that other cylinder, the valves done, and move over here and finish it, and at least we have enough done for one engine.
Yeah. Okay. Stay tuned for the next one. Be sure to like and subscribe, and let us know
Let us
if you
know
like
what,
these antique.
yeah, let
We
us
get
know.
such weird stuff in here, you know.
Let us know what you think about Minneapolis Moline. Should we tell them what the other one is that's coming up?
Yeah.
That head. We have a single cylinder hit and miss engine here. We have the head to do. It's an aero engine that's used out in the oil field.
With valves about,
Yeah, they are
That big around
big
and-
valves. Yeah.
and it's going
Yeah,
to
and
potentially
the
be
head is
challenging.
big around, just big circle.
Yeah, I'll throw a picture up, but it might be a challenge with some tooling issues. So
Yeah.
another one that looks like it should be a simple job, but it's going to require all kinds of
Yeah.
extra work on our part. But
Yeah,
it is what it is.
that's the way it works.
Alrighty.